Hello and welcome back. This is Matt F. and thanks for listening to a new episode of the Trading Card Preservation Society. Dave and I recorded a 3 hour episode here for number 3, and so we've decided to split it into two parts again, with an hour and a half roughly each time. So check back next week for part 2. And let's start the music. I call this meeting of the Trading Card Preservation Society to order. In attendance tonight, we have Matt F. from heartbreakingcards.com and Dave, the cardboard junkie, from cardjunk.blogspot.com.
Howdy.
You know, Dave, you really have to get cardjunk.com. I think
Cardjunk.com.
it's been long enough, hasn't it?
Yeah, I may want to do that. I may want to post something on the blog first. I don't think I've done
Oh yeah,
that in
there you go.
about 2 or 3 weeks.
So tonight we've got a full slate of topics, including Donruss factory sets returning, Panini jersey card problems, damaged Topps cards, a new format for 2015 Topps Stadium Club. We're going to take a closer look at 2014 Topps Dynasty. We're going to talk about video games that we play and enjoy. Dave is finally going to break the seal on talking about My Little Pony for the first time. It's been 3 episodes. It's been long enough. We need to cover what's
I
important
know
here.
you've all been waiting
And
for that.
yes, we can only last so long. And of course, we'll have our new release calendar and your Q&A.
Let's do it.
Since we last talked, it's been a few weeks, and I was going to start off talking about Black Friday, but, Dave, you've had your own sort of horrible Black Friday. Um,
Yeah, I've had the horror. Black Friday cannot compare.
yes.
And I called it too.
Yep. Last
I knew it was going to
last
happen.
episode,
Darkest.
last episode towards about the 2 hour mark, Dave sort of casually remarked that Jason Hayward would be traded to the Cardinals, and it was just a few
And
days
there he
later.
was.
There it was.
Darkest possible timeline. Yep, I knew it. Because I was all ready to go out and buy the
Oh yeah.
hat of whatever team he ended up either being traded to or signing with at the end of this offseason. And of course, it goes to the Cardinals, my least
Mm-hmm.
favorite team, period. Uh, I am not happy about this at all. I'm actually more angry at the Braves than anything else, especially with their nonsensical hot stove season that they're having. Trading the franchise basically and then replacing him with a 31-year-old. And now they just signed Alberto Calaspo, and they're trying to trade Justin Upton, but they're trying to unload BJ Upton or Chris Johnson's salary along with it, and it's really a train wreck here in Braves country. Uh,
I mean, what is the response? Is it Nick
yeah, Nick
Markakis? I mean, is
Markakis,
that?
who the thing is, I've always liked Nick Markakis. I've always thought he was a
Mm-hmm.
good
Sure.
player. He's a player I've always liked, and now he's replacing my favorite player ever, which is tough. But luckily, I can take all of my irrational bitterness and hatred and direct that towards Shelby Miller instead, and enjoy Nick Markakis playing as a Brave. Because again, if you would have told me last year, hey, we're going to sign Nick Markakis in the offseason, I'd be, hey, yeah, great. But, it's like a
Yes.
monkey's paw wish. You got Nick Markakis, but, the devil had to zap you in order to get your wish. But I've been distracting myself with lots of bad old television shows, one of which we'll be talking about in the Q&A. Also, I have my first resolution for 2015. Since there's a new Bond movie on the horizon, I have decided to rewatch all of the James Bond movies before next December, I believe it comes out. So started with
Wow.
Goldfinger this weekend, and it was every bit as good as it was the last time I watched it. Um,
Oh, so you're not doing them in order.
no,
You're gonna
the
jump around.
problem is right now I'm just watching off of Netflix because there's a good half
Ah,
dozen at least
yes.
on Netflix. So Doctor No is not on Netflix, so
Hmm.
just decided to start with one of the best. And
Yeah, they seem to rotate around.
yeah,
It
I figure
seems.
once I knock those out in a month or two, they'll have a couple new ones. So by next December, I should be able to knock out the entire series with only having to rent or pick up a DVD from a used store or whatever. Only get a couple of them.
Yeah. So
Um,
you've got what 25. Spectre is going to be
20,
26, I think, right?
24 is Spectre
Or
because that's
24.
yeah.
Oh, really? Or are we counting that, the Never Say Never Again, the Sean Con, the
I
unofficial
think
one,
we're
or
counting Never Say Never Again.
okay, good.
We're not counting the original
Woody Allen?
Casino Royale with yeah Woody and David Niven. But I'll probably
Okay.
watch that if it's if it's available.
Yeah.
But that I've also discovered Kolchak the Night Stalker on Netflix, and I want to know why nobody ever told me that Darren McGavin was in a Proto X Files show
Funny.
because that is fantastic. Also been snagging a bunch of comics off Humble Bundle. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, but Humble Bundle is it started out with video games on Steam. You could pay whatever you want for a select group of video games
Mm-hmm.
and give the money to charity or send it to the developers or however you wanted to do a mix. Since the video games were so popular, they have expanded to books as well, including comic books, and they've got some great comic book packages from the more indie uh, publishing houses out there. There's no Marvel or DC, but you're going to find Oni Press and IDW, and right now they've got Dynamic has a huge package on there for Christmas. You can buy basically a gigantic amount of comics for $15, and you can pay really whatever you want. You can pay $1 and get the basic package, and then you can unlock some tiers. I just bought the Pony uh, package from IDW, so all of the paper copies of the comics, I now have a digital copy as a backup. Also gotten Star Trek, Doctor Who packages from
Mm-hmm.
them, and I've even bought a regular book package. So if you like ebooks, it's something to look into because they have a new package every couple weeks, and it's a good way to get some reading material cheap.
Yeah,
And it's
Humble
for charity.
Bundle is yeah, Humble Bundle is great in that you can use Steam through it, but I think you can also it's mainly DRM free that you can
Yeah,
get right from them, their website, and so I mean that's the reason why I have like 400 Steam games that
exactly.
I'll never probably play half of them, but I own them and it makes me feel good.
Exactly. That's how I am with all these comics. I've read maybe 1% of all these comics I have, but I got
Hmm.
them.
Yeah, right. For my actual Black Friday, I picked up a few cards I've been wanting to buy from checkoutmycards.com, COMC. It, actually, I think they actually go by like COMC com. I think I watched a video of one of the guys from the site, and he said it was weird. I think it was like, is it like com or something like that? It was like I've never heard. I always just say check out my cards because I think it's better. Whenever I put in COMC, it comes up as Comcast on my
Yep.
um, on my
Drives
web
me
browser.
crazy.
So yeah, yeah. So I picked up some let's see, older Packers, some garbage pail kids, inspired by our last conversation from the podcast about the variations. Um, what else? A couple old tobacco cards. Um, it sort of is a real. Their site is having difficulty, as we've talked about also on the pod about their numbering system and their labeling and how things are sort of out of whack. But one recommendation I wish they would do is I wish I could search by price. Um, how I typically do it is I buy store credit and then sort of purchase cards as I go along. And so I'll end up with, like, let's say, 53 cents at the end, and I want to get like the best card for 53 cents. Um, it's sort of hard to figure out where to find that good deal anyway.
Yeah, you
Um,
have to search everything and then
yeah.
sort by lowest price.
Yeah, and hit next and next and next.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so I've got those in hand already, which is nice.
Sweet.
Typically, packaging can take quite a while, for especially these busy days for check out my cards. But went really really well. And now your Black Friday, it sounds like it's been a year in the making,
Yeah.
sorta.
Before that, though, I wanted to give a tip.
Oh
Um,
sure.
something that I found. I also check out my cards over Black Friday. I didn't actually get anything. I was more window shopping.
Hmm.
But one thing that I discovered by looking through the non-sport sections is there's a lot of cards labeled 2015 that seem
Yeah.
to be things that they just haven't categorized yet. And
Yes,
there was a
that's
lot of
true.
interesting stuff in there. So if you're bargain hunting and have some time to kill, look for the 2015, and I guess starting next year it'll be 2016.
Yeah.
But look in there and just scrounge around, and you'll find a lot of interesting stuff that you've never seen before, at least. But yeah, my Black Friday was. This is basically I'm going to talk about my Christmas present uh, in this first podcast of December, but not this year's Christmas. Last year's Christmas, I got a Amazon gift card, $50 for Christmas last year. And like a dope, I didn't put it in my account immediately, and I lost it for about 6, 8 months. Finally found it. It had slid underneath my radio, of all things. So I had some cash to burn on Black Friday, and I found a few goodies on Amazon. Got two things for basically 50% off and one for about 75% off. So I will be talking about those during the podcast today.
Okay, our first news story is that Donruss announced that they are putting out a factory set. And you would think, at first I heard this, and sounds like, this sounds like exciting news. Um, and then it was sort of, it all sort of blew up, it sort of blew up that lots of people were unhappy about this. Not necessarily that a new factory set's out there, but basically because what's in going to be in the factory set. Now, if you happen to, buy the 2014 Donruss baseball, you would find that the more sought after cards, which were the Diamond King and the rated rookie cards, were short printed, of course. And when they announced that the factory set was being made, they also included that Diamond Kings and rated rookies, what all the short prints would be in there. Um, and so the basically it sort of cuts the market for those Diamond King and rated rookie cards like right at the knees, and um, people were upset about it. I guess if you really were trying to work at the set, you can get everything for about $100 is what I've seen the factory set listed at. Now, do you think this is a huge deal, or can they can I mean can they fix it just by increasing the price of the factory set?
this blew up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, this initially blew up because first of all, it was a really dumb idea to put short prints in a set like this, especially short
Right.
printing Diamond Kings and the rated rookies, which are the cards that everyone wants. Um, Especially since the set is not that big. I think each series is 200 cards. There were 30, yeah, I think 30 Diamond Kings, then another 20, 25 rated rookies. So you're looking,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Three.
yeah,
It's
okay.
355 altogether.
Okay, so the second series was like 150 cards. So it's not a good idea to short print, a quarter to a third of your set. Especially in something like Donruss, which is supposed to be a baseline, uh, low end set building type of set. It wasn't a smart idea to begin with. And then to say, okay, here's a factory set, all those short prints you've been scrounging around looking for, buying them at a premium. Well, you can just buy them all in one set. So I know of at least one collector, and you know who you are, uh, that was furious about this and is not going to be collecting Donruss next year because of it. And you can't really blame him because it was a, like I said, it's a bad
Yeah.
idea to short print the cards in the first place, and you just made it worse. And by springing this on your collectors after the fact, it's just another situation where a collector who wants to buy your stuff ends up getting screwed in the end because of a short-sighted business decision. And honestly, the idea of a factory set at $100, where you get the whole set, and then there's a auto or a relic in there. I mean, that's basically what Topps is doing with their Heritage High numbers, except you're getting 3 times the cards. I don't have a problem with the factory set. Just don't short print the Diamond Kings next year. If you want to short print those, if you want to make them a
Yeah.
chase card, then do what Donruss did in the '90s and turn Diamond Kings into an insert set. That worked out pretty well in the '90s. It can work again if there is even a Donruss set. But because you look at the price of the factory set, $100, you're thinking, okay, a factory set for $100. But if you're collecting the set through packs, hobby boxes are $60 at least, probably more when they first
Right. Yep.
released. So you're looking at $120
Yeah.
dollars for one box each of Series One and Series Two, and you're not going to get close to a set. You'll get a bunch of inserts, but that's why this was a bad idea. It's just piling on to an original bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, the only way it seems like they could save the value would be to increase the price of the hobby box, and then I mean, sorry, the factory
Yep,
set. Um, and then it's just like who is gonna buy that? You know,
exactly. At, at,
it's just
at
yeah, it's
some
a
point, no one is going to pay $200, say, for a factory set of Donruss just
mm-hmm.
because the Diamond Kings and rated rookies were artificially scarce. So if you price it at $200, it'll be down to $100 soon enough, if not 50, if not
Sure.
30. So it's the the mistake was short printing. Making a factory set wasn't necessarily a mistake, and this is not going to be at every Walmart and Target like Topps
No.
factory set.
Yeah.
I think there's only
No.
2014
Yep. Exactly.
total sets. Period. It's going to be more like one of the
Yeah.
Fleer glossy sets from the
Yeah. You
90s.
may. You may. I may never. I will probably never see this in the
Yeah,
person.
I mean, unless you go out and buy
Yeah.
one, which
Yep.
honestly, if you had $100 and you liked the set, uh, it's worthwhile to get. I mean, you're going to get the entire set. You're going to not have to deal with all the short prints, and you're going to get a relic or an auto or whatever. Which I'm not sure what the checklist is on that, but either it's a small checklist with good players, or every one of the cards is going to be scarce because there's only so many cards you can fit into 2014. So I like the idea of a Donruss set, and I like the idea of a Donruss factory set. Just no more short prints, please.
The last couple episodes of the podcast have been pretty. We've been pretty heavy on picking on tops, and so it's a nice change of pace that we hit Donruss here, and we're gonna hit the parent company Panini on the next
Yes.
story, which is dealing with 2014 Panini Flawless Football, which shock horror, they mislabeled some materials in the jersey cards. Um, Several of the cards for, let's see, Andrew Luck, Calvin Johnson, Cam Newton, Joe Flacco were labeled game worn when in reality they were event worn. And so, another story which blew up a few weeks ago in the on the Twitterverse and the forums. And it's just, I mean, how does this happen? I guess it's sort of when you sort of really think about how many packs how many packs they make, how many things are packed out. It sort of is a miracle this doesn't happen more often. Um, but still, it's a big deal, especially for value. I mean, game worn versus event worn. There's a big difference in value and interest, I bet.
Yeah, this is just sloppiness, honestly.
Hmm.
And of course, it happens in a product called Flawless. So, you
Yes.
get your nice little Schadenfreude irony from this. But this is just sloppiness, pure and simple. Um, Companies need to know exactly where they're getting their game used stuff. They need to either get it directly from the league so they know it's legit, or they need to, if they buy it from a dealer, they need to have good provenance on it. They need to document all this stuff. It would be nice if there was a picture of the actual jersey on every card, or at least a online database that shows the a picture of the jersey, the provenance of the jersey, uh, just some way of tracking all this stuff, so people know that what they're buying is legit. Um, I mean, you've already started seeing fallout from this because as soon as Topps Dynasty hit, people are looking at every patch with a microscope, and they've already found one Wade Boggs card that has a patch of the Anaheim Angels. So, and these are not cheap cards either. I mean, if I have pulled some shady stuff out of just regular packs. I mean, I have a who is it? Scott Rowland uh, jersey card where the swatch is just gone. It doesn't exist. But that's just a base, a common relic card. These are very, very expensive packs with very, very expensive cards. And if you can't get uh, get your ducks in order on this high end stuff, people aren't going to trust your products, and which is why I think Panini acted so swiftly on this to try to get everything
Hmm.
out in the open with full disclosure on which cards had the problems and are offering to replace those free of charge. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. They give you three options. They'll buy it from you. I don't know where it's going to go into an inferno. Maybe I don't know. They're either going to buy it from you, or they can replace it, or most intriguing to me is they may remount the
Yeah,
card. Take it out and replace it with whatever it was supposed to be. Yeah, I've got a Phil Rizzuto. No, I'm sorry, a Pee Wee Reese relic card that has it's clearly like a polyester jersey,
nice.
and so it's like I don't think so. Maybe it was a I don't know, an old folks game, and
Yeah.
an old stars game or something. But it's not right. I don't know. It doesn't pass the sniff test. But your Scott Rowland is just there's no relic at
Yeah,
all. It's
it's
just
just
missing.
there's a window and there's
It fell
actually
out.
you can see
It,
underneath where it says place relic here, but there's no
oh,
relic. So
wow.
and quality uh problems happen. There's always going to be issues with the products. There's always going to be mistakes, but especially in these high end uh products where they want you to shell out 100, 200, 300, $500 a pack. You need to spend the money to make sure that everything is in order. All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. Because honestly, if you lose the confidence of the high rollers, they will go elsewhere and they will simply buy jerseys, and the jerseys that you would have chopped up, they'll just say, forget it. At least I can get a provenance on the jersey itself. Because to be fair, some of the card prices nowadays are getting to the point where you can actually just go out and buy the jerseys or the bats or the whatevers
Yes.
uh,
Yep.
themselves. I mean, maybe not on the Hall of Famers. You're not going to be able to buy a Babe Ruth jersey or a Mickey Mantle jersey, but you can sure as heck go out and find a genuine Albert Pujols jersey uh, for the price of some of these cases.
Okay, so next up we've got Dave, a book review, our first
First
book
book
review
review.
of the podcast.
All right, this is the first thing that I purchased on my little shopping spree on Black Friday. Uh, Topps has partnered with Abrams Comic Arts, which is a publishing company that, oddly enough, I found out that they publish my son's Diary of a Wimpy Kids book. But they also do a lot of comic history books, and they're a smaller press, but they're high quality. And they've partnered with Topps to put out books of some of Topps's most iconic non-sports sets. Uh, the one that you may have heard of is the Mars Attacks book, and they
Mm-hmm.
also have Garbage Pail Kids, Wacky Packages, and Bazooka Joe. And these are basically books. They have an entire set or an entire series of cards reprinted with some uh, additional background text and history and bells and whistles. And they're very good books. I've wanted to pick one up for a while. And on Black Friday, they had, I think it was a 30% off any book uh, over the Black Friday weekend. So I decided I was going to pick one of these up finally, and I looked at Mars Attacks, and I've already got the Mars Attacks Heritage set. Um, Looked at Garbage Pail Kids, and I've already got most of those cards, originals, except for the first and second series. Wacky Packages were a little bit before my time, so I wasn't really interested in those. They may be something I revisit in the future, but then I saw in the related items that there is a Star Trek Topps book, and I knew
Mm,
I just
okay.
had to get this. Basically, when Star Trek was first airing, um, Topps did not get the license to make a Star Trek set because the ratings were good, but they weren't through the roof. So Leaf got the original Star Trek set back in, I believe, '68. I'd have to double check that. But there's also a British set from A and BC Gum, which is extremely scarce. But Topps did not do a set when Star Trek was originally on the air. But in the early '70s, when it blew up in uh, syndication and became even more popular than it was when it was first on the air with Star Trek conventions and everyone freaking out about Star Trek, Topps saw this, smelled some money, and decided to print their own Star Trek set. And this book here chronicles that, and it's a very well made book. I gotta say that the graphic design is very good. There's lots of bright colors and artsy titles. It looks really good. The dust cover actually is printed on this waxy paper that kind of feels like an original wax pack wrapper, and it's got
Oh,
the
really?
wrapper design on the front with Kirk and Spock in a little Enterprise. The back actually has the back of the package, which has an erector set offer, um, where you send money
Mm.
and 15 Bazooka comics and you get an erector set. Offer expires 12/31
Wow.
'77. And the book cover itself is actually pink with a piece of gum on the front and a piece of broken gum on the back. So that's kind of funny. But inside the book, it's written by Paula M. Block. She's actually worked on the Star Trek franchise um, with Paramount Pictures, and Terry J. Erdman, who's written a lot of books about Star Trek. So this is well researched by people who know what they're talking about, and we've got about 10 pages worth of background on how the set actually came into existence. Once Topps decided to make the set, they went to Paramount to try to get card images, but it looks like the back then people weren't as interested in memorabilia, especially companies who had to warehouse all that crap. So most of the original Star Trek uh, images were thrown in the bin after the show was canceled. So they had to get a lot of their images from collectors who had the original publicity stills, and they got a lot
Oh,
of
wow.
pictures from 35 millimeter prints. So it also goes into a lot of problems they had with the set, and it's a really interesting background. I mean, the book is mainly a visual. There's not a lot of text in here, but what they do have is pretty interesting. Like I said, there's about a 10-page background on the history of the set. Then you get to the reprinted set itself, where you've got the card back on the left side of the page, and then the front with the picture on the right side of the page. And underneath the card image is actually a little blurb with some trivia about the kind of stuff that went into making the card, or um, just some trivia from the show. Uh, the card design itself, I mean, this is a trading card book. It's a very simple card design. It's a photograph still from the show with a plain white border, and down at the bottom, it's got the card title in block letterings, and there's like a drop shadow behind the letter that goes down to the border. And then there's a little golden Enterprise right next to the card title. And one of the blurbs underneath the card explains that this uh, Enterprise was actually supposed to hold the card number, initially, but they decided to put the card number on the back instead, and
Mm, okay.
the
That's interesting.
they realized later that maybe a Starfleet insignia would have been better to put the card number on the front. So little tidbits like that, and also with the subjects that they could use in the sets, any actor that was not one of the main uh, characters on the show, they had problems getting the licensing to put them on the card. But if they
Sure,
were
yeah.
in enough alien makeup, they could get away with it. So that way, you've actually got a couple of cards of Ted Cassidy, who's better known as Lurch from the Addams Family. They've got a couple of cards of him in there because he's got a lot of alien makeup on, but he still pretty much looks like Lurch. So that's kind of interesting. But it's a well-made book. It's of a card set that's not too common. I mean, you can find a lot of the Star Trek the Motion Picture Topps cards from '79 out there, but these are a little more scarce. So it's a good way to pick up a set of cards that you wouldn't normally be able to find. And I picked up the book for a little over $10. You can
Hmm.
probably look around, find a good deal on Amazon. Maybe not that good, but and the best part is in the back, glued to the back cover, there is a set of 4 trading cards that are new cards based on the original set. And one of the reasons they created that is for some reason this set it only shows scenes from 41 out of the 79 episodes of the original Star Trek series. It's
Okay.
thought that perhaps they did this because they were saving some episodes for season 2 or series 2, but which never got
Sure.
printed. But for some reason, Sulu, George Takei, does not have a card in the set. So they printed up a couple Takei cards
Oh,
as a bonus
nice.
in the back. And we got one,
Some short
yep,
prints.
all new. One of them is Sulu and Chekhov on the bridge, and the other is the famous swashbuckling scene of Sulu running amok with a sword, fighting everybody in the halls. But
Yeah, for me, I didn't even really realize these existed until you started talking about these. Because for me, it's always been just the
yep,
motion picture set, and I know that some of those cards have aliens and things from the original series that weren't in the motion picture. But um, yeah, I'll have to check this out. I'm not very familiar with the set at all.
yeah, the I wasn't either. I've actually never seen one of the cards
Oh, really?
out in the wild. It's not super rare,
Mm-hmm.
but it's certainly not as common as say the Star Wars cards. Because this set came out in '76, and then Star Wars came out in 1977. And you can find Star Wars cards all over the
Yeah.
place, but this is not as easy to find. And it is a really good looking set. It's a well made set. Um, each card has a captain's log on the back, which has a little paragraph on the image on the front, which, unlike a lot of these old sci fi sets, actually has to do with the canon of the show. A lot of these old sets, the text on the back had no relation to what was going on the front, and that was either due to ignorance or sometimes they couldn't get license to reprint the stories. I know there's an Outer Limits set, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that the pictures on the front are from the series, but the stories on the back are completely made up because they weren't allowed to use the stories from the actual shows for some reason. But this is not like that. It does try to be as accurate as possible, although there are a couple of notes in here where they had mistakes. On card number 2, uh, it says, as captain of the Starship Enterprise, he must protect his 311 crew members against the unpredictable dangers of deep space travel, talking about Captain James T. Kirk. Well, the problem is there are 430 uh, crew members on the Enterprise, but the person who wrote the back of the blurb, or the blurb on the back of the card, um, was actually the number of people stranded in the show Space 1999, which came out at the same time as this set. So
Well, thank God
the
there
person
wasn't the
who
internet
wrote
back
the
then.
exactly.
Someone would have
So
been
the person who was
crucified.
writing the yeah, the person who was writing the backs was watching Space 1999 and got his crew members confused.
Uh,
But there's all kinds of little trivia and tidbits, and like I said, it's not a long book. It's about 100 and 210 pages, and it's got all of the images from the each card and from the stickers. Uh, but between all of the trivia and the card backs, I mean, this is there's quite a bit of text in here. It's not just a picture book. Um, but it's a book that I definitely recommend for anyone who likes old non-sports sets or who just likes Star Trek. And it would make a good gift for your last-minute holiday
yeah.
season.
So you can spend $10 on a awesome Star Trek book, or you can literally spend 30 times that
Yeah,
on a single pack of cards um, called Topps Dynasty. We're going to take a closer look at that set next. Now, this is, I think I'm right in saying this is the most expensive product that Topps has ever put out.
I believe so. I know there have been more expensive packs, but I don't think Topps has done more
Yeah,
than this.
yeah, I think you're right. And so this is about going for about $300 a pack. You can get a case for a slightly better deal at about $1,000 for 5 boxes. So you get five. I mean, essentially, it's 5 cards for $1,000. Now, this is without question probably the most hyped, I would say, product of the year. Definitely, people talking about it. Some amazing cards have been pulled from this. Now, your card is guaranteed to be numbered 10 or fewer, and you've got a chance to get some really amazing things. Like, there's Willie Mays cards here, there are Hank Aaron autograph cards, there are cut autographs. Your chances of getting those are pretty slim considering there's only one, there's only one cut autograph of some of these stars. However, there are some stinkers in this checklist. And it's sort of sad when you see some of these videos on YouTube. You can get like a Dice K autograph. That would have been interesting in 2007, or 2008.
Yeah,
You can get Gregory Plonko, Michael Waka, Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, he's a great player, but $200 or $300 card. I don't know how you could, you can get a Shelby Miller, Sonny Gray. These players who, might someday make something of themselves, but man, I can't believe there are some weak, I guess you could say, weak cards in this checklist.
yeah. I'd like to get to Juan Walker, but I'd like to for the Braves to get him in a trade, not for me to get him in a $300 pack.
Right.
Um, One thing I've noticed, I've watched a few of these case break videos, and I've also saw Brent and Becca uh, rip their cup, or did they rip one or two cases? I don't
I
remember.
think it was two.
They ripped it, yeah, I think two. One thing I've noticed is in each case there seems to be four of the upper tier cards, for lack of a better term,
Okay.
and then one of the rookie slash, more no name
Yeah.
variety. But in every pack where you have a Tawan Walker or a Shelby Miller or something like that, one of the rookie players, there's also a redemption card for another autograph relic card. Um, and I don't know if these were even announced originally. I'm starting to wonder that when Topps was starting to pack these out, they realized, someone is going to pay $300 and pull Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
They might not like that. That might cause some bad publicity. So instead of just not putting those caliber players in a $300 pack, they added these redemption cards as sort of a bonus and packed them out in some of the lesser
Mm-hmm.
uh, packs, because I'm pretty sure they hand packed out all
Yeah.
of these
Definitely, I
cards
would say.
because yeah, I mean there's really no other way of doing it. So throwing that redemption card, which nobody's really sure what they are, but if you pull a Tawan Walker and there's a redemption card for a Yu Darvish patch or a Ricky Henderson patch or something like that, that kind of lessens the
Yeah.
sting.
Numbs the pain.
Yeah,
But at
but still, as far as I saw, if you bought a case, you got something really awesome in that case. I mean, because this is
Mhm.
really a beautiful set, and it looks gorgeous, and there's a lot of great players in there, Hall of Famers right and left.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you know, ate ramen noodles for a month and uh, floated your car payment and scrimped and saved to buy one pack and you got the Gregory Polanco, that would be heartbreaking. So,
Well,
uh,
like you said, I mean, you can probably get his jersey definitely and an autographed 8x10, you know, um, for that cost of
yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
Dice K, you could probably, if you gave him $300, he'd probably spend the afternoon with you.
right? Yes.
So, you know,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can see. For me personally, I'm not a big fan of the ink that they sign with sometimes. It's not the how the ink. If you haven't seen it, sometimes the photos are gray. Sometimes the photos of the players are maybe like I guess you would say sepia toned.
yeah,
And then there's sometimes silver ink on the sepia or gold ink on the gray. I don't know. Give me, I don't know. Give me a fan favorite autograph in just the blue ink or the black
yeah,
ink. I don't know. And the patches, to be honest with you, the patches sometimes seem a little small. They're typically, I mean, I think they're all vertical
yeah,
patches, and sometimes it's a little hard to see exactly what it is because it's such a narrow piece. And like you said, there's possibly a problem with the Wade Boggs. I know it was like the FBI investigating how what scenario could Wade Boggs have had a California Angels patch, you know.
yeah. There's a lot of speculation on an All-Star jersey,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone ever figured that out or if it was just an oops.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the cards are. I think they look gorgeous.
Uh-huh.
It's black background, horizontally oriented. There's I don't even know how you describe it. It's not really a photo. It's more of a line drawing,
Sure.
a very intricate line drawing of the player in sort of a metallic color. The autograph is in basically a paint pen, and apparently there's some issues with some signers not really uh, watching the tutorial video and
Yeah.
priming the pen before trying to sign. Um, and then there's that vertical swatch for the patch on most cards. There's a few that are a little different. I've seen one dual. bat card that was
Oh yeah,
white.
yeah. The Hank
But
Aaron, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
but most of them are that horizontal with the swatch on the end. Um, I think it's big enough for a patch for this size. There's a lot of them with a
hmm
lot of detail in the patch. Some of the patches are a little more pedestrian, where they're from, like, say, a number or a letter. Um, but from what I've seen, most of the cards look really good. It's just sometimes the the player on the front isn't quite what you would hope for if you were dropping $300 on a patch. I mean, I saw one Freddie Freeman card that looked gorgeous, but I would never pay $300 for a Freddie Freeman
right,
card.
right. On an unrelated topic, do you have a Hank Aaron autograph in your collection?
I do. I have two. Um,
Oh, cool.
First one I got when I was in high school, I think. It was around 88, 89. The old Atlanta sports cards on green corners down here in Atlanta. Apparently, somebody had, it might have been Atlanta sports cards, but there was a signing with Hank Aaron where he signed a bunch of uh, photos, baseballs, whatever. And a lot of the photos he signed were smudged.
Ah,
So I got a slightly smudged Hank Aaron photo for less than $10. I don't. I want to say it was about 7 or 8, but I didn't care. It was Hank Aaron. Um, and I also have his autograph on a baseball. This is a little more interesting story. I was fooling around on Yahoo auctions back in the day, and I was probably just looking for common cards or nothing special, and I found Hank Aaron uh, baseball and trading card in a display. I don't know if you've seen those before. It's got like a wooden base and then a little sphere for the
yeah.
baseball, and then one of those plastic holders that's kind of at a, I don't know, about a 60-degree angle or
Sure,
whatever.
yeah.
Uh, Autographed Hank Aaron baseball and a 1958 Topps All Star card, and I wanted both.
Yeah.
And I convinced my grandmother to make that my birthday present. About, I don't know, that's got to be close to 15 years ago now.
Wow.
So, and that kind of started a tradition with us where she'd buy me an autographed baseball every year for my birthday.
Oh, cool.
So that was the first one.
That's awesome. Um,
Yes.
okay, so we're going to split up our news segment today, and now we're going to talk a little more about pop culture and things we've been enjoying. And it's been a big, well, since the last podcast, it's been a big few weeks of summer movie trailers, or I guess movies that are coming out even as far as a year from now.
And this is after all the DC and Marvel
Yes,
blockbusters drop.
yes. So, of course, we've got Star Wars, Episode 7, which is what, only about a minute and like 20 seconds or something like that. And
Minute
yeah,
47, I think.
yeah.
I've only watched it about 40
I know,
times.
right? It
Not
gets
much.
better. I think it gets better the more you
Yes.
watch it. So, what did you
But
think of that one?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's got that original trilogy feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think they did that on purpose because it looks like, I don't know if you're on Tatooine, but you're on a place with a lot of deserts.
Yep.
You've got stormtroopers all over the place. You've got uh, Jedi Girl on the, I don't even
I
know
don't know
what you
what it
call that,
is. Yeah.
a garbage scooter. Looks like one of those scooters from the Endor forest
Yeah.
with a dump truck on the front. Uh, You've got the bad guy with the laser claymore, which everybody was pissed off about, but I thought looked awesome.
Yeah,
Uh, and you've got the soccer ball droid, which I absolutely adore, and I want a little plushy soccer ball droid
yeah.
to hug and cuddle and love.
And I enjoy that it was pointed out that in the background of the droid is what looks to be like destroyed pod racers from like the Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
Um,
I haven't even seen that far because every time that soccer ball droid's on the screen,
you're
I
just too
squee and
you're too giddy.
just
Yeah, I love the little
I'm just
noise it
floating
makes.
off in my own little
Yeah,
Star
the
Wars
little
world.
noise it makes. When R2D2 is worried or scared or whatever. Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
the only thing that worries me is the the shots with the 20 or 15 or so stormtroopers,
Yeah.
and I'm just concerned about. I think they went out of their way to show. I mean, clearly there are digital effects. Clearly there's practical effects,
Yeah.
and I just pray that there aren't going to be like, you know, 10,000 stormtroopers coming out of that.
Yeah. CGI
Yeah.
armies running
Um,
around.
I love the I don't know, for lack of a better word, the black stormtrooper in the beginning. What
Yes,
that
it's
means, what
nice
that
to see.
represents. You know.
Yeah, it's nice to see minorities and women actually
Mm-hmm.
getting to play a part instead of the basically grabbing every British actor you could find to to be the denizens of the galaxy.
Now, have you seen some of the parody trailers? Like they did
Um,
one.
I saw the one fake trailer that had I think it had Harrison Ford and
Mark Hamill
Mark
and all that.
Hamill and
Yeah.
all that, and that actually fooled my family when they first watch it, and we all agreed that it was better than the actual uh, the actual one. But
Well, there was one
um,
that they did. What if the new trailer for Episode 7 was done by George Lucas, and it
oh
was pretty
yes,
hilarious with all the added stuff that they put
yeah,
in
with
and
the
stuff.
added crap everywhere.
Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And if you are a fan of Red Letter Media,
Uh-huh. Oh my god.
Mr. Plinkett has his review, but the best, the absolute best is I can't remember his name. I think
His
it's
name is
Rick.
Rich Evans.
Rich, yes. Rich's live viewing of the trailer is absolutely
Well,
classic.
they did a couple of them. They did Rich Views, the new RoboCop trailer from a few months ago, and because he is a huge RoboCop fan, and so I thought it was going to be
Right.
a legitimate, his
Yeah.
actual first viewing of it. But oh my god, when he, I don't, I guess it will ruin it, but when he like when he's touching himself
When he
to
has the droid in hand, is that what?
yes, when he has his droid in hand, oh my lord.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
is
I literally died at that point, and I was risen back from the dead just
yes. Search
by the
Rich
glory of the
Evans
soccer
watches
ball
the
droid.
Star Trek or Star Wars trailer. It's definitely worth your watch.
Absolutely, the funniest thing you'll see.
Now another trailer is Jurassic Park. I'm blanking on what's the subtitle of this? Jurassic Park, or no, Jurassic World. No, am I
Yeah, Jurassic World.
Jurassic World? Yes.
Yeah, it's
Are
basically back to the theme park.
are you?
All I have to say is, dude riding on a motorcycle with raptors all around him.
Yes. That say for me, I'm not up on it as much as the Star Wars trailer, but definitely the scene with the motorcycle and the Raptors save not it didn't save it, but it definitely improved it a million times.
Yes,
Because I mean, it
it's
looks
worth it just for that. The whole movie's existence is is justified just by that one scene.
Yes. And I mean, it looks literally, I don't want to say shot for shot redo of Jurassic Park, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same premise, it's the same everything, but
yeah. You've got a park and the dinosaurs go crazy and they start eating people and blah blah blah. But who cares? That's
and Chris Pratt is the
the whole point is we want to see dinosaurs running around,
yes.
running amok. And if they can pull that off, then God bless them.
Now I haven't seen the Peanuts trailer, but where did you see that? Is that was that on?
That has it's online. They have been teasing it
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter constantly. There are basically it's everyone either loves it or they hate it.
Yeah.
Um, Most of the reason people hate it is because the old school 2D, very crude animation that basically was created out of necessity because they had to create a Christmas special in a very, very short amount of time with a very, very limited budget. And they did what they could with what they had, and it turned out it was so successful that they just kind of went with it. But the new Peanuts is a 3D sort of CGI type of animation, which people just say Peanuts 3D and they turn off.
Yeah.
But after seeing it and seeing it in action, it actually looks very good. Uh, it's not great animation. It is not Toy Story animation. It is not Pixar. It is not. It is not even Disney. It's not even DreamWorks. It's a little better than Food Fight, but it's a very simple 3D, shaded animation, which I think it works well because it is modern enough that you would want to pay $10 to go into a movie theater to see it. It's not the old style 2D, really kind of low budget, which I love the Peanuts animation, but you have to admit it is not great animation. They've kind of updated it into this 3D CGI deal to where it's good, but it still has that simple factor because that's the whole Peanuts universe. I mean, the whole one of the reasons why Peanuts was so revolutionary back when it came out is because of its simplicity. It's a very minimalistic strip, which seems quaint nowadays because everything is minimalistic in the comic page, but that's because Peanuts started that whole style. Um, and with this simple 3D animation, I think it looks good so far. We'll see how it works out. It looks like they have kids voicing the kids again, and anytime kids do voice acting, it's an adventure. Uh, but then again, kids are a lot more savvy and better actors nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of times the old kids, if they were, if the producer had a kid, he'd say, "Okay, do the voice." Nowadays, there's a lot of professional voice actors of that age, especially with all the kids cartoons out now. So I don't know. I'm actually excited for it. My kids both want to see the movie. I think it looks good.
Well, for your kids, I'm sure all they hear when you talk is just like wah, wah, wah,
Yeah, exactly. I don't even think they hear that because they don't even acknowledge our existence.
Well, you
If
told
I
them
was
that you have a
lying
podcast,
at
right?
the hmm?
You've told them you have a podcast, right?
Yes, they are familiar with the concept. I don't think I've pointed it out to
Oh,
them yet,
okay.
but especially when I drop f bombs every
Oh
time
no.
Topps does something that annoys me. But
Okay, another trailer. For well, not really a trailer, a teaser,
not a trailer,
a
but
teaser
teaser.
of what should be. I don't know. My hopes are sky high on Spectre, the new James Bond
Yes.
movie. Which what is it? Is it next not next summer, but is it a year from now?
Next December, I
Next
believe.
December, like Star Wars? Yeah.
Yeah.
I had hoped that this was coming because I remember a few months ago there was a little article that said, MGM or United Artists, whoever has James Bond rights now, came to an agreement with the the creators of the what was the movie, the I'm blanking on it, the third movie after Doctor or Thunderball, where the idea
Yeah.
where it was the idea of the Spectre organization was put forward, and whoever owned the rights to Ernst Blofeld, they came to an agreement that they
Yep.
could use him again. Fingers crossed that that was what was going to happen, and lo and behold, it looks like, as I wrote
Looks
on
like that's
Twitter or
it.
something, like just about everything I could dream of in a James Bond movie is coming true. It sounds like.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the rumor is, I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but the dude from oh geez, what's the Tarantino film?
Yeah. Well, he was in Christoph Waltz, the
Yes,
Inglorious Bastards, and
Inglorious
Django
Bastards. Yeah,
Unchained.
that guy's is definitely cast, but they haven't named who he's going to be yet. So
Yeah.
we're hoping Blofeld is going to be back.
Now we just need Jaws, unfortunately.
Absolutely, we need a new age Richard Keel.
Yeah. Yeah. And last but not least, there have been announcements that there's going to be a new Godzilla movie, but
Gojira!
not for America, for Japan.
Toho, man in suit.
Yes.
This
And
was just announced a day or two ago, and I couldn't even find a legit press release, but there's rumors all over the place. Toho is going to do a new Godzilla film in 2016, and it's not going to be CGI. It's going to be a dude in a rubber suit jumping up and down on models and swatting planes out of the sky, and just
now, did you enjoy have you seen the one from this past summer?
I have not seen it yet.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for it to pop up on one of the streaming services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
Uh,
pretty good. And although I hope the next one deals with an established monster,
yeah,
um, it was not it was not bad. Definitely, um, Bryan Cranston pretty much saves it, I would say. But yeah, hopefully we get a Megalon maybe, or Smog Monster or something.
absolutely.
Okay, so now video games. Are you a big gamer?
I am more of a casual gamer.
Yeah, I would say
I'm
me
kind
too.
of stuck in the Nintendo 64,
Era.
GameCube era is about as far as I've progressed.
Yeah.
I have owned a PS1. I do own now a original Xbox. Um, I'm more of a Nintendo fan.
Okay.
Well, let's just say it. I'm a Nintendo fanboy.
Oh, okay.
Uh, don't have my original Nintendo, which I think it didn't work anyway, but I still have my original SNES. I've got a 64 somewhere. I've got the GameCube. I've got the Wii. I'm trying to figure out how I can buy a uh, Wii U
Mm-hmm.
just so I can play Earthbound. Um,
Or Smash
and I
Brothers.
have, yeah, and I have Smash Brothers for GameCube, uh, not the Wii yet. Uh, and I have most of the handhelds. I've got a Game Boy Advance, DS, and a 2DS. Do not like 3D, um, unless it's on a monster movie. But yeah, basically Zelda, Pokemon, any JRPG that's not too ridiculous. Um, those are the kind of stuff that I like.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was totally into. I went all in on Sega, so I was Sega Genesis.
Nice.
Never actually owned a Super Nintendo. I did have an 8-bit, Nintendo, NES. And then I was all into Nintendo 64, GameCube. That's actually the newest, actual gaming system I own. I guess I do own one of those Retron um, players that I can play. I guess I do own an NES in that sense. I can play NES games and Super Nintendo on like an I don't, it's not really an emulator, but it plays old cartridges,
Yeah,
but it
it
sort of
actually, yeah, the software in is actually an emulator, at least on
yeah.
the newer ones. Um, I know the Retron 5 actually had some issues with the copyrights for the
Oh yeah, that
emulators.
they just sort of took the software and used it. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but I'm totally at this point I'm into just PC gaming. Um, but nothing. My system can't run anything major. The game that I've been playing most of the past year, I guess I've put in so many hours into it, is Dark Souls, which is like I would say it's my favorite game. Well, it's hard to compare, I guess, but any anything that's sort of a role playing game, not a role playing, an RPG action adventure type thing. Um, I went all in Dark Souls for God, I don't know how many hours. At least I think my player I've got 120 hours at least.
Nice.
And haven't tried Dark Souls 2 yet. I don't know. I've that came out I think last spring or May, I think in May or June if I remember right.
Yeah.
I still haven't played. I haven't dipped my toe into that because I think I need to upgrade my computer to really have it run how it needs to run. Um,
Yes.
Other than that, I've really been getting into this game called The Binding of Isaac. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't played it though.
It's really messed up. I mean, the idea is basically like you're. It's like it's done through. Um, well, it's sort of cell animation, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And your mother, the character's mother, Isaac's mother, is a religious zealot, and basically, she thinks that God tells her to sacrifice her son, and so he's basically fighting off demons and fighting his mom basically in the basement of his house. Um, and it's a roguelike game, so it's sort of every time you play it, it's different, and so in that sense, it's sort of like it's very frustrating, but each time the levels change, the orientation changes as you sort of make your way through the dungeon in the basement. Um, it really sucks your time. It's a real simple game, but when you dip your toe in, you can go real deep into it. Um, the sequel has just come out, which is Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Um, haven't purchased that yet, but if you like a real cheap game, I think it's probably maybe $4.99, something like that on Steam. Um, Highly recommended.
Yeah, roguelikes were my favorite type of game before I discovered JRPGs.
Yeah.
Um, I actually played the original Rogue all the time when I was a kid, and that frustrating but fun aspect where it's different every time, but it's just deviously hard. And if you get some bad luck, you can get wiped out very easily.
Yes.
But yeah, those kind of games are fun. My favorite roguelike actually is Toe Jam and Earl,
Yeah, I guess that is
which
roguelike. I hadn't
is
thought about that, but
just
that
as
is, yeah.
difficult as some of the nastier games. But Is still good. Yeah, yep. And I've heard a lot of good things
Yes.
about
Yep. I
Dark
mean,
Souls.
it is insane. I wish I had
It's a
been a little more.
very difficult game from what I
I wish
hear.
I had paid
I
attention
mean,
to more,
it's
like maybe kept stats on number of times I died. Um, I mean, yes, it's trial by fire. I mean, there's no way around it, but it's sort
yeah,
of how do I say like the there are so many strategies on how to defeat a boss or defeat a strategy on how to complete the game because it really is it's an open world, but there are some things you have to do at certain points, um, but you get the feeling like of accomplishment when you defeat a boss or um, sort of almost maybe outsmart the game. Because there are some strategies where if you go a certain
yeah,
spot, sometimes a boss can't get you, or sometimes something will glitch. But
yes,
you feel almost like completely justified because the game is out to get you, And so, yeah, the mythology of it is amazing too. Although it doesn't quite all make sense, it's pretty. It's pretty. I mean, the wikis for Dark Souls. I mean, it's just unreal. Um, and so when you're first getting into it and you're just going through like the
yeah,
tutorial levels and the first thing, I mean, the amount of research is daunting, but by the end you're it's like you're really an expert in this imaginary little, I don't know how to explain it, but the story is so deep and that you wish there was more to it, a little more, because it's sort
nice.
of like there's so many gaps filled because I don't think they don't think they really knew what
Uh,
they were getting themselves into when they did these sort of stories. They had no idea it would be so popular. I think, so they didn't quite, they didn't spell everything out perfectly, but it's sort of like a little bit of like the story of Lost, and they didn't really know how to finish it, and so they just sort of, we'll just throw it against the wall and see what sticks. So,
yeah,
I realized we skipped over the topic of your movie set.
there we go. They can fix it in the sequel.
You've been enjoying some.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Uh, I'll go with since we're talking about horror games, I'll move into my horror films uh, before I get into the game I was playing. Uh, the second thing I picked up on my little Black Friday binge um, is a movie collection from Turner Classic Movies. Uh, if you have cable and you're a movie buff, you know about Turner Classic Movies. It's basically the Turner Library, MGM, uh, one of the greatest movie libraries there is for classic movies. And Warner Video has put out a series of DVDs that are branded with the Turner Classic Movie logo. And each of these DVD sets has four movies of classic films. They're all uh, grouped together in a theme. Like there's a horror DVD. There's sci-fi set with 2001 and Soylent Green and a couple other movies on it. Uh, Film noir with Humphrey Bogart. Just any kind of classic genre you can think of. Warner Video has one of these Turner Classic DVD sets. The one I picked out was for Hammer Horror Films. And
Mm-hmm.
as I've said in previous podcasts, I'm kind of on a horror binge right now. I never kind of got out of the Halloween mode. And Hammer Studios is a studio in England um, that I think they were around from the 30s to the 70s. But in the late 50s, they saw how well Universal's monster movies were doing and decided, you know what, we're just going to make our own uh, versions of these classic monsters. So in 1958, I believe, they made a movie, The Curse of Frankenstein, and then that was successful. So they made another movie the next year, The Horror of Dracula, and kicked off their own Frankenstein and Dracula sets. And these movies were starred Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, two of the greatest horror actors really ever. Uh, Curse of Frankenstein shows Victor Frankenstein creating his monster and the monster running amok. And Horror of Dracula has uh, Van Helsing chasing down Christopher Lee's Dracula, who's causing all sorts of trouble. And they're really great horror movies. If you are familiar with the Universal uh, movies from the 30s, I mean, you know, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff. These are just as iconic, just with a different twist to them, a British sort of flavor. But they're both a little more gory. There's a lot of blood. Um, the creature is played by Christopher Lee in The Curse of Frankenstein. Uh, and he does a very good job at being a lurching, uh, brain damaged monster. The makeup is not quite as good as Pierce's makeup from Universal, but then again, they had to do their own twist on the Frankenstein creature, so they didn't get sued by Jack Pierce, who was very tight on his copyright for his makeup. So it's uh, the makeup is a lot uh, more gross, I guess. He's very green. The flesh kind of looks like it's about to drip off of him. As the story progresses, he gets beat up pretty
Yeah.
badly, so the the makeup gets kind of more and more disgusting. Uh, but Peter Cushing does a fantastic job. Yeah, as Victor Frankenstein, as the mad scientist who is obsessed with creating life. Uh, and it really is a classic of the horror genre. If you've never seen them, Hammer films are kind of hard to come across. I mean, for years and years, it was almost impossible to find a VHS copy because the copyrights on them were so convoluted. One studio owned one film and another studio owned another one, and they never put the films back in print. So, but now there is, I think every Hammer film is on DVD somewhere. I don't think there's any out of print, but Curse of Frankenstein is an excellent film, and Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee playing Dracula, which is really his signature role. As much as he dislikes the role, is absolutely
And of course,
fantastic.
Count
I
Dooku,
mean,
right?
yeah, it's uh, doesn't quite match up to Saruman, but
Yes.
Christopher Lee is an absolutely brilliant Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this film is a lot more bloody than the other films. It's not, you know, it's still from the 50s, so it's you're not going to see as much blood and guts as you would in a modern slasher film, but it's got a great atmosphere. Uh, Peter Cushing chasing around Christopher Lee in this spooky old castle, and I mean, just the first time you see Christopher Lee bust in as full-blown Dracula with bloodshot eyes and blood dripping from his fangs is just such a great moment in horror history that if you get a chance to see the horror of Dracula, please do it. It's a wonderful film. Um, this set also has two other films. it's like a double feature for each monster. The second film for Dracula is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, which the Dracula films were kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It's basically Helsing kills Dracula, and then in the next movie, some idiot pours blood on his ashes or something, and so Dracula pops back up and starts rampaging again. And there's not a coherent storyline. This one here, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, is one of the better sequels, which is why I think they put it on here. I think they did miss an opportunity by not putting on the sequel to The Curse of Frankenstein, which, what was that movie? I had it written down right here and I've already blown it. But basically, the sequel picks up, and I don't want to spoil the ending of the first film, but it kind of ends on a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And the sequel, I think it's Revenge of Frankenstein, uh, picks up right where we left off on the last movie. I think it would have been a better set if they put that movie in here. But they do put in Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, which is another solid uh, solid Frankenstein movie from Hammer. And Hammer had a different take on the whole Frankenstein mythos. Universal followed the monster. Basically, the monster kept coming back and causing problems. In the Hammer films, it's focusing on Victor Frankenstein, Peter Cushing, the mad scientist. Uh, each time, in each movie, the monster is destroyed and Victor is defeated, but he comes back and just builds another monster.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting take where the monster is not actually the creature. The monster is Victor, who gets more and more deranged as the series goes on. Uh, but like I said, I would prefer the Revenge of Frankenstein, but Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed is another solid movie. So
Yeah, Peter Cushing does an
and
interesting take also on Doctor Who. He's in a couple. Um,
yes,
I don't know if they're considered non-canonical now, but he's never really counted in as a Doctor Who when they add it all up on the TV show. But um, he
yeah,
does a couple interesting ones, especially there's one where he battles the Daleks. Um,
yeah. Those were the movies,
yeah,
weren't they?
they were just sort of unrelated to the TV show, but I mean story wise. But yeah, there's some interesting. I think it's 60s sort of. I don't know who put
Yeah,
it out. I don't think it's Hammer, but they're just sort of weird little oddities of the Doctor Who storyline.
yeah. He's kind of he is the Doctor Who what David Niven is to James Bond. I
Exactly.
think
Yes, exactly. That's a good parallel.
he's
Um,
not quite in the canon, but he did make an exemplary Bond slash Doctor or whatever.
since the let's see, we put out a mini episode of the podcast in which Dave talks about his love of the movie of The Ape Man, and as I was looking around and I was putting together, you may have just heard it on the podcast, but also there's a YouTube video where I sort of putting clips with the mini episodes. So check that out. As I was searching around, there's actually a sequel to The Ape Man called, wait for it, The Return of the Ape Man from 1944. Now, as I look at it, and the first thing I did, of course, was to look to see if our buddy Ralph Littlefield is in the second movie, and he is not, as best I can tell.
Uh,
Um,
couldn't afford him, I guess.
yeah. Let me try to see what the. This is the synopsis. It says, while on an Arctic expedition, two scientists find a frozen body of a prehistoric caveman. They bring him home to their laboratory, but decide that in order to fully utilize and control him, they must transplant a more developed brain into the caveman. So, Bela Lugosi's in it, but I don't think it's related to exactly related to the storyline of the first movie. Um,
As long as he has those mutton chops, I don't think it matters.
of note also is the great actor John Carradine is in this. So we have to definitely track down a copy of Return of the Ape Man.
Yeah, I'll have to look through my
See if you got it. Yeah, in your
my crap
in your,
crap DVDs.
it came out in 1944, the next year. So
Wow. I did not know that, and that's something I got to look for now.